All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Today we're going to do a couple things. In the first part, I'll show you how we do the one-to-many relationship in Visual Studio. And the other one is how we do some calculation based on data grid and the same thing, one-to-many relationship. We'll start with the first part. So we have in the data source, if you remember, we have the following tables: city, table customer, and user table. And then I have in the design view, we have, before I didn't have any relationship. I'll delete this relationship. I have it like this, right? So I have the customer, and I have the table user, and then I have the city. In the table customer, between the cities and the table customer, there is a relationship, inherent relationship, but we didn't create that relationship in the database. Even though it does not exist in the database, I can still create a relationship inside my application. You click on the city ID, drag it, if you drag it, and then drop it where? On the city ID here. But now you see I selected two fields. We have to delete one of them. I drag it on the city ID. Now, the relationship should be like this. From the primary table, which is the parent table, the column that I want to join by is called city ID. And from the child table, which is the secondary table, I'm joining by again city ID. The relationship, the type of relationship I'm creating is only a relationship. It's not a constraint. It's not a key constraint, foreign key constraints. And then you can still do that, but when you put constraints, it means that if it does not exist in one table, the other if you're trying to create a record, put a value in the child table that does not exist in the parent table, you'll get a problem. You'll get an exception, right? So for now, we're not going to do that, okay? And then you click on OK now. So now I've created that relationship, and you can see one-to-many relationship in the data set, in the data set, and not in the database. So if you go open the database, that relation does not exist in the database, only in your application. Now let's take a look on what happens to the data source. If you look at the data source, I have the cities. Now if you look under cities, you'll see the table customer under city, because we created that relationship. And then you click on the columns, so all the columns belong in there. So within a city, I have all these records. So now what happens, I can use this configuration that I've just created, this relationship, to put it all in one table, on one form. So we will create a new form. We'll go to the Solution Explorer and right-click on the project and add a new item, a new window form. And let's call this window form, I'm going to call it City Sales. Okay? Form City Sales. Now in this form, I want to put the city in the parent, and then for every record, I want to show all the customers that belong to that city. This is the one-to-many relationship. So what I do first, I drag and drop the city there. But before we drag it and drop it, let's make it details. I don't want it to be grid view. I want it to make it details for the parent. Then I drag and drop in my form. So here's the records for the city. Now you can do the add and all of that, but since this is going to be view only, I'm not going to do the add, I'm not going to do the edit, we're not going to do all of that. So I can delete those guys from here. Okay, I'm not going to do the save, so I'll delete it. I'm not going to do the delete, so I delete it. And then I'm not going to do the add, I'll delete it. So I'll just have the navigation only. No additions allowed, no updates allowed. Okay. Same thing in here. If you want to disable these, you can do enable equal false, so people cannot change the value of those fields. Okay. Next is that now I have table customer here, data source, and I have table customer data source here. The difference is what? One is under the city and one is outside. I want to use the one that is related, that join that we created related to the city, not the one on its own. So now all I do is that let's change that to first to detail data grid view and drag it and drop it on my form. All right. There's only certain fields that I want from here, so I'll just leave those. Now, if we want to delete things, it doesn't make sense to show the city and the city ID here. Why? Because they're already shown here. So why would I show them twice? So what you do is that you go in here, and then you enable edit columns, and then we go to the city. The city I don't need it at all because it's already shown above. So I remove it from the data grid. But the city ID, I use it to join, right? So I can leave it, but I'll do what with it? I'll make it visible equal to what? False. Now they're not showing in my, and then if you want to remove these, you can remove these. The last two, I'll just remove them. Okay, we're not interested in those. Okay, remove, remove, remove. Okay, hit OK. So here's what my data grid look like now. Okay, so that's all I have to do for the first part. Now I can test it. We need to create a menu option for the user, and then do what? Call that menu option. When we click on it, we open this form. So we go to the main form. Go in here, and I already have one, but I'm gonna create another one. New city sale or city sales, right? I already have it, but I'll create another one. So that's my menu option. Then I double click on it. Now I just copy the codes from any of the one that we've done before to show the form. Okay, so I'll just copy this, create the form, and then set the MIDI parent, and then I show it, right? But here I have city sale. Remember, what was it? We created city sale 1. Form city sale 1. Now let's go ahead and run it. And then log in. And then we do the username. Then all right, and then log in. If I click on that, what happens now? First record did not have, the city of Sharjah does not have any customer that belongs to it. But if I go to the next one, I have more records that belongs to it. If I go to the next one, same thing happens. You can still disable the editing here. If you're using this as reporting, you can still disable the editing in here. All right? And the way you disable the editing, again, you go to the panel, and then you say enable edit, no, enable addition, no, and so forth. So that's how it looks. Pretty simple, straightforward, no coding yet. Just create the relationship, drag them, and put them on the forms. And that's what you have to do for one of your assignment, for the student grade, student courses relationship. Okay. If you go back to that form city design, let's do a few things here. I want to enable adding, no, enable editing, no, enable deleting, no. So they cannot change the grid. All right. All right. So that is the first part. In the next video, what I'll show you how we do that calculation. Okay, and it's a little bit more involved. So I'm gonna stop this part, and I'll see you on the next one.